Let's talk a little bit more about the possible legal implications. Joining us, Laura Coates, CNN legal analyst, former federal prosecutor. It is relatively early in the process, but both the House and Senate Intelligence Committees, they have to be very sensitive. If they're going to give General Flynn immunity, they have to make sure it's not going to undermine any potential FBI Justice Department investigation.
Right, and the people who actually give immunity is the Justice Department, and the reason you have to go through them is because it has implications across the board. Whether or not you get immunity really depends on three things, Wolf. Number one, do I not already have this information? Can I get it from nowhere else? Number two, is it truthful? And three, will it be able to help implicate somebody at least at your level or perhaps a higher level? Remember, immunity is based on this premise that the fish rots from the head. I want to know if I can go above you and get anyone else above you in this case. So to give leverage and compromise the ability to prosecute somebody, it's got to be something very substantive. And they don't know if they have that yet. And remember, we don't know all of the facets of this investigation. The FBI has done it since July, but there could be other avenues they have not yet been able to pursue.
The statement from Congressman Schiff also said this. He's the ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee. When the time comes to consider requests for immunity from any witness, we will, of course, require a detailed proffer of any intended testimony. Explain what that means.
So here's how it works. If you have a request for immunity, you have this kind of off-the-record dance you do where you say, what are you going to tell me? I'll let you know if you really qualify for immunity. Is it worth my while? Is it enticing enough for me? And what they'll do is kind of give a proffer, meaning here's what I intend to say. At that time, the FBI will essentially evaluate whether or not, again, they already knew about it, or I can't get this anywhere else but from you. And remember, there's not yet a smoking gun. We don't have information. There's one piece of evidence. What we have is smoke, which in the law is kind of circumstantial evidence. It may be that General Flynn's testimony is worthwhile because it may be able to connect that right now what are seemingly unconnected points that could make up a better case.
Laura Coates, excellent explanation. Thank
you
you very much for that. Joining us now, Gloria Borger, David Gregory, Laura Coates, and Eugene Scott. You know, it's interesting, and tell me your analysis. Flynn now wants immunity, but the other names that have come up, we haven't heard their lawyers say they're demanding immunity. How do you explain that, Laura?
No, well, he is the only one really that has kind of an actual criminal allegation that may be pending. You have that Logan Act, remember everyone was talking about a couple months ago, the idea that a private citizen was trying to usurp the role of a president or an executive. And so he has this kind of link that's never been used before, that law, so it's really kind of a tangential issue. But he's the one that actually may have something decisive to lose. But remember, the biggest thing about immunity is you have to have something that's actually worthwhile to the government, and it has to be truthful. And right now, I don't know that he has that information. Is it personal vindication? Is it professional vindication? Or is it literally a story that leads to understanding an actual criminal act? That's going to be the key here. And remember, you know, the person who can give immunity is the Attorney General in the Department of Justice, and he's recused himself from the Russian investigation. So without a Deputy Attorney General firmly in place who may or may not oversee this actual investigation, this has monumental implications about how long it will even take to get immunity.
You heard Congresswoman Jackie Speer, a member of the House Intelligence Committee, Eugene, say, you know what, you only give immunity if that person can provide testimony or evidence to go to someone higher up. And in this particular case, he was the national security advisor to the president. There's not that many higher ups. There's the president of the United States.
There aren't that many higher ups, but there's certainly interest from some people on the committee in knowing if there was a role that the president and the vice president may have played at all in this investigation, in this situation regarding Russia and the election. We don't have that information. There's been nothing out that says that they have, but certainly there will be people wanting to know if Flynn could provide some insight into that.
You know, first of all, they're not at the place in their investigations where they even know whether they would be in a place to want to give him immunity, I was told, because they're at the nascent stages of this.
You're talking about the House and Senate.
The House and Senate.
But what about the FBI? We don't know how far along they are.
We don't know how far they are. We know about the intelligence committees in the Congress. The other thing to consider here, and the precedent for this is really Oliver North and the Iran-Contra Committee, because if you'll recall, he was given immunity by Congress, but there was also an independent counsel looking at the same thing because Congress decided it was more important to get to the truth than a conviction. Well, that's not how the independent counsel felt. So Ollie North testified before the Congress, But in the end, Walsh had a conviction, but it was overturned.
Yeah,
And so
that's what a lot of officials remember now.
Exactly.
Here's Sean Spicer.